things happen for a reason. Some things just don't work out, and it didn't work out at Florida State. So we'll see how he does up in Chestnut Hill. I wish him luck, but I think it says a lot when a current Florida State player quotes the tweet and looks at him.
Yeah, there was a reply there.
Yeah.
You could say who it was. I mean, it was all publicly done.
Sean Fuller. I'm saying, Krishan Fuller.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's out there publicly.
I mean,
a player that's on the stat or that's on the roster.
I'm not withholding the name's kid out of privacy. I'm just saying that, in general, the fact that one of your former teammates is laughing at you on social media because of your quasi inspirational quote when, he sees you every day and knows that,
I don't think.
Come on, give me a break. Without saying bashing the kid, but someone that sees you every day, you say it's personal, like you're going to be super motivated to prove a point. Why don't you cover a guy out of the slot and not get beat, and we'll go from there.
Hey guys, it's Terrence Mann. You're listening to Hear the Spear, presented by Noel Game Day. Go Noles.
Hey, what's up? This is Peter Ward, aka E-Dub, in the house. We're listening to Hear the Spear, presented by Noel Game Day. Go live, go Noles.
Hi, this is Charlie Ward, and you're listening to Hear the Spear, go Noles.
This is Terrell Buckley. You're listening to Hear the Spear, presented by Noel Game Day. No Bloody.
But perhaps better known as the greatest corner to ever step on a football field, Deion Primetime Sanders.
Great Deion Sanders, my brother. What's going on, man? I could wake up to that greeting every day, man. That was awesome.
Hello, Noles fans. This is former Seminole Derek Brooks, and you're listening to Hear the Spear, presented to you by Noel Game Day.
James Wilder Jr. What's going on, James?
Thanks for having me on. FSOD, Florida State or Die, and go Noles.
William Bar None Floyd.
Gentlemen, what's up?
What is happening, everyone? This is Logan Robinson from Hear the Spear, presented to you by Noel Game Day. We are here on this beautiful Wednesday evening. Florida State's football season has officially ended. No bowl game for the Seminoles. We didn't actually get to see Florida State's last scheduled game because of COVID-19. So Florida State's and Mike Norvell's season is officially over in Tallahassee. It is officially off season, and we're already got a lot to hit on, including tonight. With me this evening is Nate Greer, our lead recruiting insider at the top there. And then at the bottom is our lead basketball writer, Austin Bizet. What's up, guys?
What's going on, guys?
What's up, man?
Did you like that little ring I added to the last name there, Austin? Or do you want to kill me?
Legitimately hated it.
Okay. I was surprised you didn't say anything about it, but I did that just to kind of irritate you a little bit.
Good to know.
No, I'm trying to. Dustin is not here with us. Congratulations to Dustin. He is officially engaged to his lady, Gina. Shout out.
Don't do it, Dustin. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
I'll listen to you, Nate. Me and Austin are still single men.
You still got time.
Yeah.
Still got time.
Austin, you and I are now like the legal ones that don't have any kind of things going on.
I know. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing.
It sucks the life out of you.
Where's your wife at, Nate?
She's shopping, and I would tell her the same thing.
That's right. Y'all are officially, you can't get out of it anyway. So
no.
But yeah, shout out to Dustin and Gina. They just got engaged this past weekend.
Congrats, man.
But now, I mean, how long are we gonna let him be off the podcast? It's time to come back. Hopefully, we'll have him back here next week.
Yeah, hopefully him putting a ring on it. She'll lighten them strings a little bit.
I'm scared that it tightens them even more. So that's what I'm nervous about. Well, I'll tell you guys now is that we are not going to do like an official full-on recap of the season. We're not going to do this, not even go game by game in this episode. Before the year is over, we do intend on having a kind of full thought breakdown on the season. We'll talk about even the offseason heading into this. This was an insanity, a crazy year to cover. tons of podcasts, tons of instant reactions, ups and downs. But we're going to be doing that all in next week's episode. That'll be our last episode of the season. We'll also be previewing 2 basketball games then with Austin here, obviously. So that will be next week. We're just kind of going to go through the quick hitters, go through some basketball too, and we got a few questions from our Discord and Twitter people. So that's the game plan for this episode. We can go and jump into it. Obviously, the hot topic of this, and the title of this episode, Florida State's football season has officially ended. There was some contact tracing and some COVID problems between Florida State and the roster, and mainly the offensive line unit. And they were not able to go up there and travel and face against Wake Forest, which ends up, Florida State ends off the season with a win, obviously at home with Duke. But Florida State, it was going to be a who scores the most points in Wake Forest for anything. But what are y'all's just initial thoughts on the season? This thing is finally over. It's done officially.
I mean, it wasn't pretty. It didn't go the way anyone expected it to. But I think some things opened up as far as we saw more of what mess was left on the roster from the past few years, whether it be misevaluations, bad coaching, whatever, that Norvell's trying to fix. And, as the season progressed, we finally started seeing the young guys on the field just so they can get some progression for these next few seasons. And some of this bad character and bad roster fits, that they started working their ways out. And we'll talk about that more here in a minute. But yeah, just didn't go the way we expected it to, but there's definitely a progression for going forward.
Yeah, I mean, highs and lows, right? You have a signature win early in his career against Carolina. And, a lot of us thought, hey, this is a turning point, but that wasn't such. And then you look at the last game of the season, with Duke, and that was really the first chance that Norvell had time to spend practice a couple weeks with installs and like Austin said, getting the younger guys on the field. So all in all, I think it's not what anyone expected. I think we probably expect the Florida State to play better, but also it was just a swift kick in the dick to really see that this team is still not mature. I know there's these social media arguments about culture, but the culture is just not where it needs to be. And I think what people need to understand, though, is that when you say culture, it's the mentality of wanting to win and learning how to win and fighting through adversity. And you have to have that certain mindset. And this team is divided, which we talked about quite a few times during the season. So I think that there's some definitely highs and some lows. You can't judge Norvell on what we saw. You can't judge his staff. You can't judge any staff that's in first year across the country with COVID, because everything was so handcuffed. So we'll talk about it more when we do the full season breakdown. But some things I like to see, but it was still disappointing as a whole. Seeing them struggle as a Florida State fan.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, and we do this every year, we get that hype feeling, and we kind of should have, judged a little bit more on right off the bat. I mean, I don't want to go too deep into it because that's what we're going to do next week, but I want to talk about how I think this team was divided right off the bat starting off this season and what went down this just prior to kickoff, and how some guys weren't on the same page with the direction towards their coach publicly. I think there was a lot of misdirection and miscommunication that was happening right off the bat before kickoff happened in Tallahassee. And like Nate said, it's really hard to judge a first-year coach, but when you're coming to Tallahassee, it is not an easy job to fix whatsoever. I mean, the on-field product is hard enough to fix, but being in that locker room, having to fix a corrupt culture that has been really dwindling down since Jimbo Fisher's last year. until now, it's no easy job, no easy task. It's a disease that you've got to try to clean out. And so it's not just an on-field thing that Norvell has to fix. This is something which is happening now, but you got to fix it in the locker room first before you find any success.
We're going to talk about him in a second, but something that really stood out to me, and I'm kind of surprised that people didn't pick up on it when I talked to the Arkansas cornerback Jarquise McClellan when he was talking about how the staff shows how much the players show the staff how much they care for them and how they play, and that just tells you right there how much lack of buy-in there was this season, with the inconsistent play, with the I would say topsy-turvy, unbalanced, old versus new. That was there the entire season. So, when we were talking and he said that, it's just, dinged a little bell in my head. It's like, it's kind of right when you look at Florida State. And he mentioned that because we were talking about Norvell, the coaching staff, and the product on the field, and talking about how, being at Arkansas was a rebuild and all this kind of stuff. But, it's going to be interesting moving forward on how things unfold.
Yeah. And I think it's crazy. I mean, we're going to talk about it next week, so I won't just keep on hammering it down. But you're seeing now, which we're about to jump into with the quick hitters. There's guys that are departing from this team that were actually pretty talented, had some decent careers at FSU, but are no longer going to be on this roster that
Come on, Logan.
You don't have to lie.
I'm directing this maybe towards Tamaron Terry. Talented, extremely talented. Did it hurt the locker room? Yes, most certainly.
Yes.
Does Durden have the talent, but the character and the personality, does it fit Mike Norvell's locker room? No, it's probably the opposite of that. Yes, but it ends up hurting the team.
We're going to get on Durden, but I'm going to say, since you just mentioned it, I think that Corey Durden is Corey Durden in terms of results by playing next to who he played to, in Marvin Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think that he has an okay skill set. For a guy who left Florida State expecting to go to Florida apparently, and now he's at NC State. Yeah. Yeah. So no, Durden does not have the talent in order to. He's not what he thinks he is. Mm-hmm. He's got to put more work in.
But yeah, that's obviously, we have a lot to chat on this whole topic, but just kind of want to note that the season's over. We're going to record a whole thing next week, so that's what we'll jump
Karlos
into.
On this. Where's Karlos to talk about his boy Corey right now?
Yeah, that might be good. Well, he better be here for the next week's one, because got a large discussion on it. Because I have a few things to say too. Contract extensions for Odell Higgins and Ron Dugan. Supposedly this was done back in July, guys. There was a lot of speculation too the last couple of months if Ron Dugan's and Odell Higgins, if their contracts were going to be renewed, but that becomes officially public, and we will be seeing these two back out on the field coaching next season. Positive, negative, what are your guys' take on this, on how the position unit has looked to you this season? Do you think this is a good move? Do you think this is a little too late? Should have been.
I think Odell can stay at Florida State as long as he wants, but I like the idea of what I had heard about him moving off field and kind of that Monk Montessorte role, kind of that liaison between the admin, boosters, and the football team. I think that's something that would fit him really well. Because he's an embodiment of Florida State. He's been there for a long time. You can't fire Odell Higgins. You have to let him make his own decision. He's still a damn good coach. But I did like that possibility of him going into that role off the field. In terms of Dugans, I'm kind of surprised in terms of recruiting that position, and what the inconsistency at his position. But I also understand continuity, and trying to keep things together. As this team has seen so much turnover, over the last 3 to 4 years. So
Yeah. Any thoughts on your on old Odell Higgins and Dugan's getting an extension there, Austin? Any kind of?
I mean, I think Nate summed it up pretty well. You can't fire Higgins, and he has so much respect in that program, not just in football, but across the entire athletics administration. You can't get rid of him. I do think him moving into an off-field role down the road would be something that fits him really well, like Nate said. And with Dugans, we haven't seen enough results out of these receivers. I mean, Terry was good, but he was a head case. And then outside of that, like, we like on Terry Wilson, we like Keyshawn Helton, but they didn't really show much this year. And granted,
Jordan Young, man, a guy who had, an immensely talented athlete whose film was some of the best receiver film over the last couple of years, who hasn't done anything yet in college.
Yeah,
and it's been this way. It's been this way at Florida State since what, mid 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of Calvin Rashad and Kenny Shaw, like outside of those three guys,
maybe Travis Rudolph in there as being like the last.
Even then, Rudolph should have been much better than he was.
I would put Greg Denton there. Greg Denton was slated to be the number one guy in 2013 until all those false charges. Greg Denton was, I thought, a really good receiver and player for Florida State.
Stud.
Yeah, but when we're listing 5 names out of how many receivers have come through,
that's for sure. Yeah,
it's been bad at Florida State.
Yes.
Yeah. It's been a struggle, and recruiting has its ups, has its down, and whatnot. But I'm sure that affects too on these contracts all the time. But do you think? I know you're the recruiting guy over here. Do you think Odell still has it, or? And this goes for Dugans too, but in Odell's department, because he's got the fandom here in Tallahassee. You think Odell on the recruiting trail, it still hits hard, like that name still gets recruits? Recruiting game.
I mean, I still think it does. But what's holding everything down is the on-field results. So we can't forget about any of that when you talk about whether it's Odell or whether it's Coach Johnson or Coach Woodson or Coach Dillingham. The fact that Florida State is a losing team the past 3 years, it doesn't matter. That's still going to play a role. So that hinders how you can recruit. I don't care what anybody says. The logo holds weight. That's great. At the same time, these kids want to play for winners. And while they may have a shit ton of respect for Odell, you saw a lot of recruits say that this year. I love Odell, but, or, Odell's the best in the country. But, while they may understand it's maybe good for them personally, they still want to win. And Florida State hasn't proved yet that they got that turned around.
Jane Lars Wood.
It's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah, no, it is rough. You don't want to move on from someone.
Reality
like
is a hard pill to swallow. I was talking with
he's got numerous guys in the league right now.
Talking with JP Peterson when I was on his radio show last week when he was hosting from my restaurant. Just and that's one thing that we talked about off the show is just people got to understand that until Florida State starts winning again, you can't expect them just to draw all these, high-profile elite kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but like we talked about right at the beginning of this topic, these contracts were signed in July before the season even started. So this wasn't because of the season or why we're talking about this. Wasn't they didn't sign after seeing what happened this year from both position coaches. So they have another season ahead. Those are going to be the guys out on there coaching. I am very intrigued about if it does become the case and Odell does take that kind of like a Bonasort kind of role at FSU. I think that's something very intriguing for FSU moving forward. I think that's a great idea.
It's needed.
Mm-hmm. Most certainly.
Needed.
Jane Lars Woodby has picked his new home. That is going to be up there, up north in Boston. Maybe a little surprise to some. He's going to be transferring to Boston College. I'm going to go join the Eagles up there. He's going to stay rocking kind of the similar colors there. But, the biggest thing isn't about where he's transferring, but something that he tweeted just last week, I think it was, or over the weekend. I think Nate has it better, but there was a tweet referring to an NFL wide receiver, Steven Diggs, over there, who's now with the Bills and was with Minnesota. I said Steven Diggs, Stephon Diggs.
Yep.
I saw Austin look at me real quick. He's like, "Wait, hold up."
I didn't have to say anything.
I know Diggs goes over to the Bills. He's excelling, doing very well there under Josh Allen, and they were just talking about how the move over there did very well for him. And
changing culture.
A new culture that they're around, and
it's personal.
And Jane Lars Woodby said, it's funny how that works. A change is sometimes needed. Hashtag this is personal or something like that. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
Just mainly talking about that change and the environment that they're around, and maybe the culture is a little bit better. They're up there in Boston and maybe here in Tallahassee around the staff under Mike Norvell. Just a little shots fired.
Hey, I wish you good luck. But there's a reason why he's not at Washington or any of those schools out west that, or Texas or wherever else he was considering. And things happen for a reason. Some things just don't work out, and it didn't work out at Florida State. So we'll see how he does up in Chestnut Hill. I wish him luck, but I think it says a lot when a current Florida State player quotes the tweet and looks at him.
Yeah, there was a reply there.
Yeah.
You could say who it was. I mean, it was all publicly done.
Sean Fuller. I'm saying, Sean Fuller.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's out there publicly. A player that's on the stat or that's on the roster.
I'm not withholding the name's kid out of privacy. I'm just saying that, in general, the fact that one of your former teammates is laughing at you on social media because of your quasi-inspirational quote when, he sees you every day and knows that,
I don't think.
Come on, give me a break. Without saying bashing the kid, but someone that sees you every day, you say it's personal, like you're going to be super motivated to prove a point. Why don't you cover a guy out of the slot and not get beat, and we'll go from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's been a lot of miscommunication, like we said, inside this locker room, and I think a lot of guys aren't on the same page whatsoever. Before the season started, and
so instead of putting those motivational tweets out there, how about you motivational work on taking the right angle
on a coverage? Yeah, some would think that way, Nate. Some would think that way. But yeah, Jane Lars Woodby is going to go to Boston College. Best of luck to him. Mm-hmm. His teammates or his former teammates here, I don't think are on the same page on what he was publicly tweeting, but it is what it is. We don't know. We weren't in the locker room. So here's another one. Corey Durden and Cyrus Fagan are going to be going hand in hand to be with the Wolfpack at NC State. They announced just a little bit ago that they both will be traveling up to North Carolina to go see you, Austin. They're going to go hang out with you, I think.
Not a chance. They're not welcome.
But I think this fits them perfectly. It fits the Wolfpack way. It fits the fan base there. I do think they
playing
fit
for
perfectly.
For a shithead coach, an absolute horrible fan base. I think we have to, mention the tweet that Durden put out about how he
another tweet
will not be enrolling in NC State in January. He'll be at Florida State to finish his degree. I appreciate his follow-up on that. He's still going to be a grad transfer. So I'm very happy he will not be a part of the program moving forward. I know some people saw that with some raised eyebrow raise eyebrows, thinking that maybe he changed his mind. But if I were Florida State, I would tell him, find an online school to finish what you got to do. You're not welcome back here.
Luckily, though,
That's just
Nate,
me.
with COVID-19, everything is online. Or you just like you saying, just maybe find a different route.
Yeah, find a
And
different.
all.
Just do it at TCC.
Yep, you're super quick to up and abandon ship, but now you need to crawl back because you don't have the necessary credit so to go ahead and enroll in another program or another university in the spring semester. So you got to crawl back.
It's an interesting situation. But yeah.
And then I can't be the only one that forgot Cyrus Fagan existed until he announced he was going to NC State. I cannot be the only one.
I don't think you probably were. I just know because of his name is such a weird one, and I don't know what it is, but I've just always had that name in my head. But I think a lot of FSU fans are in the same boat as you, Austin, where they're like, "Oh, I didn't even know that he left the team," or maybe they didn't even know that he was on the team at the beginning of the season.
Oh, we talked about it when it happened. He played, got a lot of reps, and the next day he was in the portal.
Mm-hmm.
He got his exit interview that day.
There's been a lot of exit interviews starting from the very beginning of the season.
Hopefully they keep going.
LeBourne.
Yep.
Keep him coming. I'm for it.
Yeah, I do think
it has to happen
on 16's route, and there's a lot of them. We have a long podcast next week, but a lot of these guys were holding this team down on the field and in the locker room, which is starting to become pretty obvious now. Here we go. Some news here. A player transferring in, Arkansas cornerback Jarquez McEllion is transferring to Florida State. Nate, you just mentioned a little bit earlier that you had some time to talk to him. What is your take on him and his attitude that he brings? Because I think now that you're going to see these players are what Mike Norvell wants in his locker room before it's even an on-field product, because he's learned real quick of what he's had to deal with right off the bat. It's going to come to personality, character, holding himself accountable. These kind of players coming into Mike Norvell's locker room is what he wants. So tell me a little bit about him.
Yeah, so he's a 2-year starter. Took a red shirt his first year. He played in 12 games as a redshirt freshman and started 2 of them. And then last year, he played in all 12, started 9, I believe. But he opted out in October 1st. So he's a guy who's played a lot of snaps against a lot of really good players, and he's held his own. He's a Florida kid coming back home. As soon as they reached out to him, it was a done deal for him. He grew up a fan of Florida State. So, if you read the interview I did with him, he's got the right mentality. And, he, like you just said about what Norvell's looking for, he's been kind of challenged to come in as a leader and coming as a guy to change the locker room. And, he's gonna be a guy who's gonna bust his ass every single time he's out there. He's got a lot of confidence, which every defensive back needs. He thinks highly of his ability in terms of him coming in and being a contributor right away. And I think that when you look at the board and look what Florida State has coming back, that's going to be a very real possibility. Florida State needing to look at the JUCO route or the transfer route. So, he's a big kid at 6 feet, 180, 190, experienced, has a lot of playing time, has 2 years left, says the right things, and wants to come in and help Florida State get back. One thing that I really liked what he said was he's going to come in and push his teammates. We all get better when we all listen and learn from each other, in that the people who aren't going to hold themselves accountable, he's going to help them make them accountable.
And that's things that you want to have coming into your locker room.
Yeah. Even if this is a kid who plays, part-time minutes or is a sub. He's got the experience. He's got the right mindset. He he's a Florida State fan and wants to come in and change the direction that Florida State's at. So, I think it's a good signing. I think it's a needed signing with, the future of King Dent still up in the air. And, I like to take.
He says in your interview that you guys can go check out nogameday.com. I'm going to give Florida State everything I have every day. I'm going to push myself and we are going to push each other as a team. So that's something you're seeing lately with a lot of guys that Mike Norvell are bringing in, including, Mackenzie Milton, obviously a quarterback, but said, I'm not going to just come in and expect to start. I'm still going to challenge the guys that are around me and fight and compete. But I also want to make the other ones, my teammates around me better and hold each other accountable. And I don't think the last 4 years you could put FSU and accountability in the same sentence. It's just not true. That's been a struggle.
And here's another kid who, the Milton transfer caught his attention.
Yeah.
Which he talked a little about in that interview was when he saw him coming to Florida State, he was like, wow, I know this kid's a big playmaker. And I want to bring that mentality and that playmaking ability to the defense. And, with that experience that the two of them have, they could work together to kind of lift this team moving forward. So we'll see how things work out. I don't think they're done at that position yet. So
let's see. Leonard Warner is transferring from Florida State University. Might not be too much of a shocker.
Bye.
Yeah. An interesting career in the Garnet and Gold. Some ups, but more downs than anything, I believe.
To keep it short, he was one of the two worst players on the field every time he touched the field.
There we go.
That's all I got to say.
This is why you have Austin and Nate here to tell the truth. I just kind of put the same word with him with missed tackles. I've never seen anything like it. I really haven't. Definitely as a veteran, but I've just never seen
a guy who's 6'4", 235, and afraid of contact.
And that the running back is going to get off of him. I could predict it. I would say it out loud. Well, I know that player's getting out of the tackle, and they're going to make it up to the second level. Or through the second level.
He needs to do himself a favor and go down to G5.
It might help him. It just might. Along with that, they fit kind of well. I mean, Tommy Martin, the punter, is transferring.
He had a lot of action 2 years ago. Ton of action.
Yeah. No, he filled in the spot for when it was needed. Logan Tyler obviously was indefinitely suspended from the team. So he comes in and subs in and plays well for a guy that wasn't expected to play whatsoever.
He wasn't bad, but moving on, Maximano's the guy moving forward. So
let's see here. Janaris Robinson is headed to the NFL draft, Nate. He's headed to the NFL. We'll keep an eye on him on day 1, 2, and 3 of the NFL draft. We'll see what happens there. Austin's already looking at me.
I think we can limit it to day 3.
Apparently, he's getting some early 3 to 4 projections.
Good.
As I said in the Discord, he saw one tweet of someone gushing about him being 20 yards downfield and said, "I'm gonna take my chance."
So here's what he's got to do. He's got to go to the combine. He's gonna have to blow it out of the water because his athletic ability. He's athletic. He's a big guy who can move, but doesn't show on tape, and that's going to be
still
really hard for him
has to develop.
Yes, that's going to be really hard for him to overcome. He was a developmental guy coming in, anyways, out of high school. You will give him a little bit of benefit of the doubt with the coaching turnover. At the same time, the pieces haven't come together for him. So it's hard to develop when you in the NFL. you are not going to last on a roster if you are a developmental piece in the NFL.
Yeah, and that's been kind of his career throughout it all. Is coming even from high school. It was all about he's going to have to develop and also be coached very hard.
Got to talk about Nas too. Nas announcing.
Yeah,
Hamza not on our list.
Yeah, not on our list, but Hamza Nasruddin too is entering the NFL draft too. I think could have gone last year. The injury definitely hurt him, and I do think he was intending on leaving after last season after the injury against UF, and happened just terrible timing for the kid. But seemed, he comes back in. It was a surprise to a lot of us. We thought after the Miami game, if he wasn't going to come back, that was going to be it for the season. He was going to, in quote, opt out and be on the sidelines, blah, blah, blah. But Hamza Nasruddin is going to go ahead and go into the NFL draft. He played a few games to end off the season at a takeaway. I think he's got enough tape to look at last year alone for him to do well. And I think he is going to be a good NFL product.
I could be wrong. Was he the leading tackler in the 2 games he played?
No, he wasn't Duke.
Yeah.
I think it was good for him to come back for even just a couple games and put some tape out there just saying, hey, I can play. I'm good.
Got a turnover.
Well. Yeah, he played well. You could see that he's still a really good player. And I don't know if his play style fits what the NFL likes to do with their safeties, but he could do that box safety, box linebacker hybrid role that I think he'd be really good at as a day 2 pick.
Yeah, I think he's going to be good in the pros. I think, when you look at this team, who gets drafted? 4 guys, right? 5 guys. Marv, Terry. I think Asante goes round 1, round 2, depending on what he runs. I still think he's got to run well at the combine. And then you look at Hamza and Robinson. So
it's interesting. It's crazy. Florida State has talent and just a lot of locker room situations. A lot of things weighing down the talent, which sucks. But yeah, I do think Hamza Nasruddin is going to be very talented and going to have a long-lasting career in the NFL. He did what he needed to do when he came back, and just get a few things on tape, and he did his job. He's just I don't know what it is, but he's just a menace with tackling people. And he's just all over the field, east, west, north, south. That's one of the good talents that he's at, and that will work well in the NFL. You'll get paid to do that every Sunday. So best of luck to him. And yeah, that's practically the ins and outs and transfers and all that kind of jazz and NFL draft talk. Let's talk about some all ACC first teams here. Asante Samuel Jr. He worked hard for this, but he's an all ACC first team this year. Much deserved. Really was one of the few that just put his nose down, didn't give a damn about the admin, didn't give a damn really. I mean, he listened to his coaches, obviously, but he really just focused on getting better and making plays and looking towards this moment of having the expectations of going day 1, day 2, getting drafted highly. And this is Asante Samuel Jr. Put in the work, and this is where he's at. So congratulations to him, all ACC first team.
Much deserved. There's not much else you got to say. He was the best player for Florida State. Wasn't even particularly close.
Yeah. And then this is a good one here. I completely forgot about it, but Austin threw it down for us. Marvin Wilson, all ACC second team. All ACC second team. Nate, Marvin Wilson.
I don't think that he played at a second team, third team, or honorable mention this year. I think it's a name given recognition. So, moving forward.
Yeah, I've never seen a bigger name award than Marvin Wilson, all ACC second team, with 11 total tackles and 1 sack, I think.
Correct.
And played 5 games?
Yeah, I don't understand that. I know that it's COVID's crazy and teams playing half the season and blah blah blah, but come on, man. Be honest with yourself. This kid didn't deserve to be recognized on the all-conference team.
Maybe the preseason one.
Oh, he preseason All-American.
I think a lot of awards preseason wise, a lot of preseason awards. But yeah, that was a little shocker to me. I kind of looked at it. I'm like, oh, Asante, I better expect him in the first. Yep, first team, boom. And then the second team, I was like, who could be in here? Who potentially?
I think a guy like Emmett Rice deserved to be like honorable mention.
Yeah,
I think a guy like
things around.
Devontae Love Taylor deserved to be honorable mention.
If you're able to have any kind of success on Florida State's offensive line, you should be on his first team Hall of Famer.
I think that
you should be at the Hall of Fame mark for that.
Really, that's it. Between all the COVID and the injuries and all that kind of stuff, it was hell of a year.
And Los isn't here either because both me and had the same thoughts about it. Like somehow some people were like putting Timmy Jernigan and Marvin Wilson's name together. I looked at our stats because we were on the Mark Rogers show earlier, and just a stat line. I think Timmy in 2013 had 11 sacks. Marvin Wilson won his last year, so 11-1.
I think Timmy had more
35. I think he had
Wilson
35
had his entire career.
Practically. I mean, 35 tackles Timmy Jernigan had his last year. How many was it for Marvin?
11.
Yeah. And I might be wrong on that. Timmy Jernigan might be 13 sacks. I don't know. But yeah, I did that. I'm kind of glad that's out of the window now. That way we've kind of learned, I think, the Marvin Wilson name just kind of Florida State fans wanted to hang on to, that they were hoping it would be a star and a nasty defensive lineman, because Florida State hasn't really – there's always got to be a nasty defensive lineman, it feels like, ever since Darnell Dockett, even years before that. There's always got to be a nasty defense. Man. Yeah.
Go all the way back to Ron Simmons.
Mm-hmm. There's always got to be a nasty defensive lineman for Florida State. They don't have one. I hate to break everybody's dreams and everything, but they just don't have one. And Marvin Wilson was not going to be that. So it is what it is. Carlo, we'll probably talk about it next week more, but we'll see. All right. The end off the football segment, college football playoffs are about to happen here in a few weeks. We finally got the games from the conference championships. Alabama is able to squeeze out of the Florida game. Clemson wins and just annihilates Notre Dame. Ohio State gets in because they only need to play 6 games and they're good to go. And Notre Dame gets their last little second chance. They're going to get smoked in probably the first quarter. But yeah, what are y'all's thoughts on this playoff coming up? Should a smaller team gotten in here for shits and giggles?
It would have been fun. Like just someone other than the same 4 teams we've been seeing for the last 4 years. Outside of, obviously LSU last year, but for the most part, it's been Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and then a good 4th team.
Yeah, you usually give Notre Dame just another chance. You get them in there just to get obliterated.
Even Texas A&M, just give us someone new.
Well,
it would have been amazing to see Coastal in there. I would have grown out a mullet for it.
They would have got.
You don't already have one? Damn.
No.
Okay.
But now, I think we need to be a little realistic here. Ohio State would have won their conference. It would have went undefeated. 6 games or not. I get the quasi bullshit argument, but also Texas A&M had a really good season. But you put Kellen Mond against any of these teams, they're going to get smoked. They already got smoked against Bama. Clemson is going to beat them. I think Notre Dame beats them. You're looking for the best games. So I understand it.
Which to me doesn't even exist. Like it's going to be Bama and Clemson by.
Yes.
Bama's going to win by 50.
I need Ohio State
to win by 40
to do God's work because Dabo Swinney is millimeters away from passing Urban Meyer. In my anyone who's followed me on social media knows how much I cannot stand Urban Meyer. Dabo is like Secretariat coming around the last turn and catching up so quickly into my level of hate for this fucking guy.
Dabo's comment about like I don't know the exact words because I don't have it in front of me, but him saying it's gonna be like a short film session because they don't have a lot of film on. I'm like, okay, and then him putting Ohio State 11th in the coaches poll.
If I'm Ohio State, I'm putting that everywhere.
Oh yeah,
11th, 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 11th. You know, Ohio State's talented enough to beat Clemson. You know,
I'm concerned about Fields has looked iffy in these bigger games where he's playing better defenses.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the one thing. I'm like, if he comes out and just shows up, just balls out, they could win easily.
Mm-hmm.
I think Clemson's too good.
I think that it's all pointless anyways. Alabama is just significantly better. You know, Alabama's defense, I think, is going to make this an interesting playoff, but I think their offense is just too good. I think they cannot score anyone. So, you know, I think that, you know, they're going to win. I think I don't think Notre Dame's going to score a lot on them because of the lack of, you know, let's say the word elite talent at quarterback. You know, right now, the other three teams arguably have the best three quarterbacks in the country. And Kyle Trask can go ahead and kiss my ass. But you know, I just don't I don't see Alabama not I don't see them blowing any of these teams out other than Notre Dame. I still think Ohio State, Alabama would be close. I think Clemson, Alabama would be a close game because, you know, they do give up a lot of points.
I still think Florida State got gypped here, but that's another discussion.
Hopefully it'll motivate him for next year.
Yeah, getting left out like that, it's gonna fire up.
Who do you think should win the Heisman?
Heisman, that's man, Smith from Alabama is disgusting.
I do too.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna.
I think Devontae Smith should get the Heisman.
He needs to just go to the entire offense of Alabama.
Yeah,
it probably. I think Devontae Smith.
Can we give it to Alabama's offensive line? Give it to Landon Dickerson, maybe. A lot of camera time in that SEC championship.
He's so good, Devontae Smith, man. It's just asinine how easy he can get open.
Yeah, no, absolutely ridiculous. Alabama's been doing this. I mean, Waddle was possibly going to be right there with them, if not even more. He's possibly more talented than him. Didn't get to see him.
No, he's not.
He's not. Waddle is disgusting.
Waddle's a good player, but
I'm just saying though. I just think since Waddle's out.
But speaking of Waddle, apparently he may be back for the playoff.
What did he have? What was his? I thought it was a season-ending injury.
Apparently he may be back for the playoff.
All you really need him is to just run like 70%, and that might give even more time off of Smith. Mm-hmm. But that's a whole other
I mean, not to drag it out, but you know, you have a guy like Mechie, who no one really ever heard of, opposite of Smith, is pretty damn good. You know, the other receiver opposite of him. You know, it's just they're reloading. You know, Clemson and Alabama, Ohio State are just far and away what they're doing at wide receiver is just completely ridiculous.
Yeah, stupid. All right, let's jump into some basketball here, and then we'll answer some questions to finish it off. But Austin, people are coming for your neck. Florida State basketball loses one game, and everything's everyone's freaking out.
The sky is falling.
The #Fire Ham. Twitter is back. They had some little signs of it, and then obviously like Gardner Webb game is a different story. But everybody was kind of freaking out there against UCF. Should FSU fans just freak out more?
It was one of those games that was a perfect storm. You know, UCF came into the game shooting like 36% from the floor and ended up shooting 50%, just taking absurd shots that no person in their right mind is taking against Florida State's length, and they're just throwing it up and making it. You had 3 guys go for 20 plus, including one guy with I think 32. Like when guys are doing that against, for the most part, was good defense. It's what can you do? You know, Florida State still scored 74 points, which really in college basketball these days, you score 70, you're feeling pretty good about yourself. UCF could not miss. Florida State's offense was fine. Defense had issues, but they came out the next game against Gardner-Webb and showed, we're still a good defensive team. They showed all year they're still a good defensive team. I think what the UCF game did was made the staff realize we can't play how we did last year. Because last year you really had no true big. Dominic Olenicek was not good. Neither was Balsa Koprivica. So you had to play Malik Osborne at the 5, and he was excellent at it. So now you almost have to switch 1 through 5 just because, everyone on the floor is basically the same height. You can't do that this year. If the staff's insistent on playing Balsa Koprivica and Tanner Ingom and Quincy Ballard consistent minutes, you can't switch 1 through 5 with these guys. And Hamilton even said after the UCF game, we're going to have to go to hedging, which is, for the people that don't know basketball, just go back and watch what we did with Kamaji and Ojo and Ike Obiagu, where they're just funneling things into these guys so they can protect the rim. I wouldn't be surprised if that's all they're working on this week as they get ready for Clemson. But Clemson's also a smaller team where their 5-mans can stretch the floor. So you might see Malik Osborne at the 5 a ton against Clemson. And then Duke, we see what happens. But I think even though it's their first non-conference loss at home since 2014, broke a 41-game streak, it's something this team will grow from because it's a very inexperienced team despite the age seniority.
Yeah, it was bound to happen eventually. I do think I'm right there with you, Austin. I'm all about wake-up calls, and the staff needs to make changes. That's why you have these kind of games to do so. FSU fans will always look for things to gripe about, but obviously it was not a great game. The other team had a phenomenal game. Things happen, life happens. That's the situation as it is.
You got to tip your cap.
Yeah, that's one of those games where you just go tip your cap, just move on to the next one, and learn from our mistakes.
And I will say, Austin, the football guys had to get a win out of this. This was obviously it's about as obvious as it gets.
I will trade.
You get McKenzie.
Take Milton back. I want my win.
Oh my gosh!
I want my win. Take Milton back, UCF, please.
Oh no! Like you said, it was it's good for the team. It's a wake up call. Like you said, you just need to. We're just trying to help you. We're helping.
I'd rather have the wake up call come at Clemson, not home against UCF.
No.
A team that we were supposed to beat by a lot.
Yeah, that's understandable. I just don't want to lose to Clemson either. But here's the deal: we get Mackenzie Milton. UCF
I think
beats
Clemson and Duke are 2 winnable games.
I think the entire ACC is winnable.
Yeah.
Clemson's good. We'll talk about this next week. But Clemson's good. Duke is – I still don't know what Duke is yet, especially with Jalen Johnson out for the foreseeable future. I think Duke's going to be shell-shocked when they come to Tallahassee, I think.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of talked about it a little bit before we came on, but I just want to see Calhoun more.
Yep.
I want to see Osborne more. I want to see a little bit less of I can't say his name, but the starting center.
I like Koprivica. He's a phenomenal offensive player, but for some reason against these smaller teams that we've seen in the last couple of games where they're trapping him. They're sending consistent bodies at him, and he's just not processing it fast enough. I think once we play bigger teams like UNC, Louisville, I think he'll be great.
Yes. It's kind of what the Warriors used to do with Bogut, right? You start him and he plays a couple of minutes and then, he plays sparingly or he plays more against teams that are bigger.
And the thing he's also not a great rim protector as of right now, at least not in this current defensive scheme. If we go back to hedging and maybe he comes out and blocks a few shots a game, then we'll reevaluate then. But he's not. He's got great feet for a big man, but he's not quick enough to stay on the perimeter with some of these quicker guards.
I think he's definitely an offensive player more so than defense right now.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But,
and then in the Gardner, we didn't really discuss the Gardner-Webb game, but it was completely opposite of the UCF game. Neither team could hit the broadside of a barn with a pebble from 2 feet away.
Mm-hmm.
Florida State shot 18% from 3, and they came in shooting 41% from 3. They were top 15 in the country 3-point shooting. They were getting shots. They just weren't making them.
They scored 72, and they were horrible behind the arc. And
abysmal from the floor. They shot 31% from the floor. Came in shooting 48%.
I don't think they're going to shoot that bad. really anymore this season. I think that's just a game. It happens. You add 4 more threes to that, and it's a 25-point win, whatever it is. So it's just the little bit, but
And it's important to note. I mean, last year was the greatest year this team has ever had, and they still started out with a loss at Pitt. They beat Western Carolina at home by 5. I mean, they scraped that one out by the skin of their teeth, and then went on the road and lost to Indiana. They were not, and that's not even mentioning the USF Orange Bowl Classic game that a lot of people forgot about, where they were down the entire game, and then the last 2 minutes they just pull out defensive stops after defensive stops. It happens, especially with teams that have a lot of inexperience and are trying to figure out what their roles are. And as everyone keeps saying, there was no offseason this year. They didn't get a lot of time to practice and work out some kinks that they would usually get. It's going to take time for these things to be worked out. So I think by the time February, mid-January comes around, this team's going to be rolling again.
And I'm here all for, baby. Let's see. Jonathan Isaac, fat contract.
4 years, $80 million. And he's played in half of his available games.
Happy to see it. He deserves it.
He does. Great kid. One of the best guys I've ever been around in any sport, in any walk of life. He's a phenomenal guy. If he could stay healthy, there's a lot of teams that really love him. Yeah. And the fact he's staying in Orlando for that kind of contract just shows you.
And he still has a baby face, and he's what's his?
I gotta ask you about Malik Beasley, man. What's up with that kid?
I don't even think Malik Beasley knows what's going on with Malik Beasley.
I mean, he had that much trouble at Florida State.
No,
I mean, he didn't seem like he was a problem child at Florida State. Now he just, please.
I mean, he was fine.
Felony.
Luckily, those charges got dropped. He pled down and got technically a misdemeanor. But
I just really know about the chick. I just know about the chick.
Right.
I followed him.
Please guilty to one felony charge of threat of violence on Monday.
Yeah, because of waving a gun around in his front yard in like July or August or something like that.
Dumbass.
It was one of the stupidest things I've ever seen. I'm sure everyone at the Florida State office saw that and just went, "What?"
Like out of nowhere, such a random thing.
Yeah, that was. I still can't believe that happened. But then let's flip script to a better side. Even though the Bulls are getting demolished right now, Patrick Williams has 11 points in his first game through 3 quarters.
Nice, I like that. I had that game on earlier. I was watching like a live stream of it.
Yeah, the Bulls.
Beasley just signed a contract too.
Who did?
Beasley. Didn't he just sign a?
He signed for 4 years, 60, I think.
Yeah,
4 years, 65, something like that.
Bruh, these kids are getting paid, Holmes.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you. I mean, he did not seem like a kid at Florida State that was, irresponsible.
No, and he comes from a good family. His dad's an actor. Very established family that wants the best for Malik, and they wanted him to go to Florida State because of how great Florida State is.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Maybe
even in Denver, like we never heard anything.
I think you get wrapped up with that whole, Pippen chick, and
Oh yeah,
it's just
the NBA's
TMZ.
Eternal side chick.
Yep.
Nah, you can't get messed up with these girls, man. That's why me and Austin right here, we're doing our thing.
Yeah,
not messing around with the ladies. Focus on business.
Natural ice, man.
And then also, isn't Dwayne Bacon starting for Orlando now? I just thought. Yeah. I mean, you talk about a guy that sparsely played for Charlotte, and then they played tonight. Let me see what he did.
So it's
how many times Bacon get bumped down to the D League?
Well, he scored 0 points in 19 minutes. Only took 5 shots.
But hey, it's starting to get interesting though, because I looked at a graphic that FSU put out, man, and it's kind of starting to overload a little bit. Like everywhere I look, I'm like, wait a second, that's homeboy out there, and I'm watching the game. Now it makes me where I'm gonna probably start watching a lot more NBA.
And even though Trent signed a 2-way contract with Utah, I mean, they've got Mike Conley at point guard. They just signed Yogi Ferrell, who had a couple good moments with Dallas and Sacramento. But there's time for there's a place for him to get minutes, especially next season when Conley comes off the books. I think he's in a perfect situation there in Utah.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, did he make it?
Yeah, so the way NBA contracts work, a lot of these undrafted rookies sign two-way deals where they get like a month in the NBA and then the rest of the time they're in the G League.
Mm-hmm.
Terrence Mann was going to do the same thing last year, but then he blew up in summer league. I talked to him about it while I was out there in Vegas watching him. He's like, "Yeah, I was going to sign a two-way, and then I came out and just bought out, and they signed him to a 4-year guaranteed deal."
Mm-hmm.
And then, like with the first-round picks, they have a set wage where they have to make this much money, and it has to be an NBA contract. They can still get relegated to the G League, like Fionnu did for all of last season. But like with these two-way contracts, they have to spend a certain amount of time in the NBA, which I think is great for someone like Trent Forrest.
It's so cool seeing both Terrence Mann and Cam Gilly like last night.
But they played 1 minute last night.
No, but just seeing them out there.
Terrence Mann played 20 seconds.
Like, come on, man. Like,
and
you gotta get him out there.
Terrence Mann is an NBA player. He's got a skill set that a lot of people like. Being 6'6", 6'7", that can handle the ball and pass.
Yeah. No.
And he was guarding LeBron last night. Like, he can defend too. Like, this is what people want, and he's playing behind Lou Williams, who's the worst playoff player of the last 10 years.
Come on,
though, man. Lou Williams can put the points.
I love Lou Will, but when it matters, he can't be on the floor. Terrence Mann can. And I know I'm going to call a homer for that, but shut
up. Discord Twitter questions to end this off. Only 2 of them in here tonight. Coach Thomason is leaving Florida State ? Or is reported to go to Texas Tech to be their next offensive line coach. Obviously, that's what his main role has been through a majority of his career. But if he does end up leaving, who will replace him? And that's probably a great question for Nate, because you've been high on a few guys in the last couple of weeks. But who do you think should replace him if that does indeed end up being true?
Well, who do I want, or who do I think it is?
Who do you want it to be, and who do you think realistic it will probably be?
I think that Florida State needs to figure out how to get like an Eddie Grant on the staff. But apparently he still thinks he can get a job as an OC. So that may be unrealistic. They got to figure out how to get a recruiter on staff. What I think happens is I think they promote Tony T. Right now he's coaching quarterbacks for Florida State. When Norvell was out for Miami, he got bumped up to onto the staff, and I think he coached tight ends at Memphis, I believe. Could be wrong, but I think that's who gets bumped up and who replaces him.
This next question is from someone in our Discord. It says, who's starting at defensive end next season? So we have Janarius Robinson entering the NFL draft. We still haven't heard yet, so I guess we can still talk about Joshua Kaindoh and what he's intending on doing. If I was going to have someone go to the NFL draft first and who would be going first before one another, I'd probably put Kaindoh before J-Rob right now. But if we're looking at it and we haven't heard anything on Kaindoh's side of things, it would probably be Kaindoh, and it's going to be a youngin unless someone gets moved down at defensive end or moves over. Any idea who would be opposite of Kaindoh? I'm trying to think.
So my opinion, I right now I would put transfer portal guy or a JUCO. If somehow they miss out, I think it would be McClendon, who was the primary backup for Robinson, and I think played better than he did this year. Mm-hmm. So I think when you look at who starts, I think that right. I'd be kind of surprised if Kaindoh leaves. At this point, I think he has to show that he can be healthy, and he has not shown that yet. But when you look at what's out there in the transfer portal, you have Jermaine Johnson, the kid from Georgia, but that's looking like it's going to be a Florida and Penn State battle. You have the kid from Northwestern, Iko Leota. I think that's a real possibility. And then you have the kid from Temple. I can't even pronounce his last name, so I'm not going to attempt. but he was second team all AAC. So I know Florida State has been in contact. So I do think that it ends up a transfer, but I will not sleep on Derek McClendon yet because I think that he has a big role with this team.
Yeah, I think McGlennon, and whenever he has his time in games, performs very well and with great energy too. So that'd be another one across. I know there's Griffiths here that you have too that will probably get in and play a decent amount of time, but we didn't really get to see a lot of it. He started off a lot, getting a lot of playing time in the early parts of the season, Nate, if you remember that. And then it really dwindled down to almost nothing in the middle of the season, and then it kind of amped up here in the end.
And I think depending on who they get, I think we're going to see a lot of situational with Peyton and with Wilson. We talked a little bit about them. With the early signing, they're not necessarily guys that are going to come in and play major minutes, but they can be situational pass rushers for this defense next year.
Yeah. Do you know that there's a guy named Hardin Reggie on Florida State's roster? You know that?
Sounds like a fake name.
And it doesn't seem really real to me, to be honest, but I don't know if I'll believe it until I do a true investigation on it. Freshman defensive end Reggie Hardin, where's number 28? I don't think that's true.
No,
because that would. I don't think that's true. But yeah, I think that's practically it. Unless y'all have anything else on this episode, we kind of noted on a lot. I was shocked how much stuff has happened in the last week or so. But unless y'all have anything else, is the Bulls game over? That was it. 11 points.
They're in the fourth.
Okay.
I think he's still. Let me see. Yeah, they're halfway through the fourth. He's still at 11 right now.
When does
a plus minus of minus 35? The Spurs are playing right now. He just scored his first career basket.
Oh, look at that!
A 3-pointer. He's not playing much. Vassell. He's not going to play much these first month and a half, just because it's the way Popovich is with rookies. But he's too good not to play. He'll, especially with this team and the way they're constructed. Both DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge are expiring contracts that are both still good players. I wouldn't be surprised to see them moved at the trade deadline and a guy like Vassell get some more minutes.
I like it. Well, we're going to end off this episode like we said earlier at the beginning of this. We're going to do kind of just our 2020 football season recap, full kind of break down our thoughts, positives, negatives, and kind of look ahead to next season. That'll be in next week's episode too. So make sure you guys look out for that. We'll also be previewing at Duke and Clemson. So that's be happening next week before the end of the year.
Before we get off.
Uh-oh.
So I don't know if this is real, but Trey Sermon, the running back from Ohio State, I'm going to tweet it. So, we won't, because I don't know if it's real or not. But apparently he has a quote directed to Dabo Swinney. So I just retweeted it. Yeah.
Oh, I see that.
Let me refresh this real quick.
Dabo Weenie can rank us whatever. It'll just make it way more sweeter when he spends all night staring at the back of my jersey running into the end zone. Go Bucks. Running back Trey Sermon.
I hope it's true. Please.
That would be funny if it was.
He will shoot up he will become my number 2 favorite behind Zane Herring and his little
oh yeah
quote tweet towards
Jimbo.
And also on another note, our current coach's old school is about to beat our old coach's new school. The Montgomery is up 25-10 over FAU.
Oh yeah, I forgot Willie Tiger's playing tonight.
Yeah.
And pretty interesting. You see all these people tweeting, "Oh, Memphis has talent. Memphis looks good on offense."
I wonder why.
Wonder who built that team.
Yeah, I wonder who had some pretty good success there and just came off of a conference championship. I wonder what happened.
I don't know. It makes you wonder.
I couldn't really find it. I got some people saying that Mike Norvell is not the answer here after no offseason and blah blah blah.
I'm gonna plug the Unconquered Talk podcast we had last night with Mike Alford. If you think that Mike Norvell is not the answer, just listen to what he has to say about Coach Norvell and what he sees, what he's seeing firsthand from him. And this is a guy that's been at Oklahoma, been at Alabama, been a part of NFL franchise Dallas Cowboys. So this isn't a guy who's just Johnny come lately. So I think everyone needs to do themselves a favor and go listen to that, because he lays it all out there about how he sees the direction of the program moving forward and how he sees FSU athletics moving forward. So,
go check it out if anyone has any interest in it. Cool seeing a video here on Twitter too of Deshaun Corbin putting in some work right now, already getting set before 2021 hits. So,
and one more thing, shout out to Johnson from Florida for getting let out from the hospital. That's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Keontae Johnson.
Yeah, really great to see.
Yep.
Because that was scary.
Really scary. And then on another basketball note, we were talking about Malik Beasley earlier. He has 20 points tonight.
I like it. Got a little ticked off, huh?
Yeah.
A little ticked off.
We were just talking about Larsa Pippen. He's like, how much for 20?
Yeah, let's go. I like it. Hey, that's what you do. If you have that kind of competitor mentality, man, go shot on the court and make them shut the fuck up. So, or do it on the football field. Just, put your mind down and go do it. So, but yeah, I think that's going to do it for the end of this episode. Like we said, go check out. We'll be back here next week, recapping the 2020 season in full. Thank you guys, as always, for listening. You can listen to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube. Hit that subscribe button right now, so then you'll be notified every time we release a new episode. If you're on iTunes, feel free to rate 5 stars and leave a review. We would definitely appreciate it. Make sure you guys go check out our Patreon at patreon.com/Noel Game Day. Also, you can join our Discord. Hit us up. We'll send you a link. You can join for free and join a really fun community over there. I think we're now over 1,300 members. So definitely go check
some
that out.
More recruit projections.
Yeah, now it just kicks up. The offseason, football season might be over, but I think this is where it just picks up.
Yep.
Rumors, intel, what we're hearing, and everything goes into the Discord. So make sure you join the Patreon so you get all those crazy and awesome benefits for you guys. But yeah, y'all guys enjoy y'all's holidays, enjoy Christmas, enjoy every bit of it with y'all's family. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you guys before the end of the year. So yeah, see you guys. And go Steelers.
Ha!
Fuck the Steelers.
Mama told me not to